Maybe. Okay, there we go. Live streamed. We still kind of have a spinning wheel, so that means we're probably not live on YouTube because that's how that worked yesterday. But we're going to go with it. Hello, hello. I believe we are streaming live now, ready to get this party started for the third day of the Design Pattern Create Summit. I am so excited. I have multiple of our speakers all here today, all to give you guys some more information, some fun conversation. And if you have any questions, please let us know so that we can get them answered. I am going to do a quick check and make sure it looks like we are live. Because yep, looks like we're good there. And we're going to check. Yes, it looks like we're live. So if you are live with us, please let us know. Say hi, where you're calling or where you're watching from. And if you're on the replay, we would also love to know where you're calling in from. I'm going to let each of our speakers introduce themselves and just say a quick hello. Monica, do you want to go ahead and go first?
So, hi everyone. It's my first Q&A in this summit, so I'm really excited about it. My name is Monika Potaszyńska. I'm a self-taught bag designer and a pattern drafting instructor at Also Petite. I create sewing patterns for bags and accessories in all skill levels. And I also teach how to draft your own patterns from scratch for my courses, YouTube, and soon membership. So I'm really excited, to chat all bags and accessories with you.
Awesome. I love it. Welcome. Thanks for joining us. And V, do you want to go next?
I'm V Tanner. I'm based in the UK in Surrey. I'm a sewing teacher, costume maker. I teach sewing classes at Reading College and also soon to be teaching at Surrey Adult Education. And I also am the costume maker at the Chiltern Open Air Museum. I've costumed in theatre and where else? I've got lots of hands in many pies.
And having all the fun too, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Awesome. And Annette.
Yeah, hi, I'm Annette Lennerup, and I am a fashion designer, textile designer, product developer, and a mentor. So I mentor creative businesses, both one-to-one and in groups and on my own. But I'm also part of one big EU program as well, helping lots of creative businesses. And I've got some courses and bits and bobs when it comes to like getting your production done. Specialize a lot into like getting design concept to production.
Love it. And Michelle.
Hi, I am the oddball in this group in that I take all of the very cool things that you guys do and teach craft classes and craft parties to people in breweries and restaurants. So I take all of your amazing skills, dumb them down, and help other people do the same. So
yeah, we had a really fun conversation and my husband was just like, you have to do one of those craft parties yesterday. So we're looking to see if I can figure out a way to have it to do something like that with taking the center part of, oh, I'm never gonna get this project done out of it, like you suggested. So
yep.
Awesome. Well, thank you. And I'm Christina. I don't think I've really introduced myself ever on these lives, just saying my name, but I help sewing enthusiasts learn how to digitally draft sewing patterns in Adobe Illustrator and Clo 3D. So I help your sewing dreams and patterns come to life. And we're just going to have some fun here as we wait for some questions to come in. But do any of you have questions for anyone else in the group to start?
I have a question to Annette. I watched your video and I was really intrigued by everything that you talked about regarding, you know, manufacturing and all that process. And I
Yeah.
was actually wondering, would that process be as well aligned with like my craft, my bag making? And if I, let's say, wanted to, you know, produce certain collection of bags that I personally designed on more bigger scale, would I like follow the steps and the procedures that
Yes.
you? Oh, that's really
Yes, it works
interesting
the
then.
same, I would say, for fashion and garments as it does for like textile products. So if you want to do shoes, it's a bit more complicated because you need to know about a little bit more about like the parts that go into a shoe. But for bags, like yes, you could draw up a tech pack, and if you have patterns already, I mean that's even better because you can send your patterns together with like a tech pack. If you have a sample, even better, send a sample too. But yeah, it's the same procedure. You go through the same same process, and there's lots of factories. Some factories only do accessories and some only garments, but some do both. So it's definitely the same process.
That's good to know. I'll make sure to follow you and learn everything else that I can.
Oh, great. Yeah, I've got more stuff for you for sure.
Are you looking to get some of your bags made, Monica?
Not at the moment, but this has been something that I had in mind for a couple of years. I spoke with my partner about it, I think, I don't know, pre-COVID, and I just didn't know how to even get around this idea to produce, you know, bags or pouches to shops or markets. So I just pushed that idea aside. But now that I met Annette, you know, let's see what future brings.
I have a
Anyone else?
question for Michelle. Michelle, you talked in your trainings a lot about something I've never heard of, and I just want to know what it is. A sugar skull, is it? Sugar?
Oh, yes. So I live in New Mexico. So we are right on the border to Mexico. And one of the traditional crafts that pop up quite a bit is called is sugar skulls. And basically it actually came out of Italy originally. When the Italian conquistadors came over to South America, they brought sugar sculptures. So like all of the Easter eggs that are hollowed out that have the little Easter bunnies in them or whatever that are designed. So they brought it over to South America, but South America is perfect for sugarcane growing because it's so warm and hot there. Also, they started mixing with the Mayan and Aztec people who would do things like put human skulls on altars to memorialize people. So on the day of so you have these two really interesting people that collided like 1,000 years ago, 1,500 years ago. And you wound up, what came out of it was the Day of the Dead, which is a very, it's a cool holiday that I could talk to you forever about. But one of the things that we do is that we create sugar skulls, which are basically you take sugar and meringue and you put it in a skull mold, and then you decorate it with royal icing, and then you put it on altars on the Day of the Dead when it's believed that the living and the dead mingle, like the veil between the living and dead is very thin. So they will, like, what they'll do is, and there are a whole bunch of rules that I think are just incredibly cool. So people in South America will often create these ofrendas where you have flowers and food from people that they've lost and ancestors and pictures, like these big altars. And one of the things that you do is you put a sugar skull there. And the idea is that the souls come and feast on the sugar skulls and all of the stuff, and that gives them the energy to go back home to heaven when they're done. And you can do a sugar skull for specific people, but the rule is that you can't do it until a year after they've passed, because the idea of the Day of the Dead is not a mournful period. It's to celebrate our ancestors. So it's a happy time. It's not a sad time. And so one of the really cool things about being able to teach Sugar Skulls is that you've got this incredible cultural rich history that has all sorts of symbolism and meaning and beauty, and people really enjoy taking royal icing and decorating them, and they're not for eating for us. Like, the idea is that the souls eat the Sugar Skulls, and they'll last for years if you keep them in a dark place. But
So
it's just what?
You're not meant to eat them.
No. Sometimes they will. So the sugars. So they're very specific to this region and south. And actually, I think Day of the Dead is celebrated throughout the world in a lot of different, usually Hispanic cultures. But you'll see a lot of the like, they're very distinctive, if that makes sense. It's not just a decorated skull. They'll have things like, you'll have symbolism. So they'll put like spades on the forehead, which represents fortune. I can't remember what all it is, but everything has some sort of symbolism when you put them on the skulls. So they'll have chocolates that are decorated that way. But the traditional Sugar Skulls is only meant as an offering to the dead. But they are literally made out of sugar.
Wow.
So yeah, that was one of, and I live in New Mexico, but I used to teach high school up in Washington, so very far away. And I would get homesick every time around October. So Day of the Dead is generally November 1st, so it's the day after Halloween. It's also known as All Souls Day, All Saints Day, All Souls Day. So it's kind of Halloweenish, but it's not. It's a very, very different celebration. So I would always get really homesick right about that time. So I would teach my students in Washington about mariachi music and the Mexican music and stuff that I grew up with. And then I wound up coming back home and teaching it more. So yes, I could talk about Sugar Skulls forever. It's such a beautiful tradition and such a beautiful way of looking at humanity, at the fact that we all die. I'll just say it. It's hard.
Have you got anything to show us? Do you have any there?
Do I have any? I don't. It's not that season. They've all been put away. Usually I can't. It's funny, I don't even have pictures at this point. But I'm more than happy to post them in the Facebook group, or if that would be useful. They come in all different sizes. So we've decorated life-size Sugar Skulls, which is like 1.5 pounds of sugar, so they're not small. But the usual size is about this big, about like 1/4 pound, and they're just very decorative. They look like the Easter eggs that are decorated, only in skull form and brighter, very bright. The idea is that this is a happy thing.
And are they solid?
Yes. They are. If you get really large, you can hollow out the skulls, but most of the ones that we teach and we do are solid. They come in two, so you can either do the face half, or you can do the face half with the back, and then you glue them together with icing so that it sits like a skull would sit.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, if you want to teach something that's wacky and wonderful and just outside of your realm, I love traditional Sugar Skulls.
Yeah, we have a comment from Facebook that I think they're referring to the Sugar Skulls of an altar, and that they do one every year. So
I feel like it's part of the culture that I grew up with, and it's something that I want to that my kids are very familiar with sugar skulls. We do them every year. It's like, we do Halloween, but we also, I'm in a meeting. Sure, until noon. He's like, can I do TV? And he knows I'm in a meeting.
How it works.
That's the way that goes. Yeah. But I feel like it's a really beautiful way of kind of introducing your kids to the concept of death and dying in a non-scary way. So it's not people confuse it with Halloween, and it's not. It's like the opposite of the tradition, if that makes, like, they're both, I don't know, they're similar but different.
Yeah.
So
We do
yes,
have one. Yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
oh yeah, we do an altar every year as well.
I love that. I think that's such a fun thing to really, that a lot of that history I didn't know. I didn't know it was originally from Italy. So that's really fascinating to learn all those histories of where it actually came from and everything.
I get geeky about, like, I feel like all of the handmade stuff that everybody does has such a rich history that's been handed down, like textiles and how we clothe ourselves and the evolution. It almost feels like we're talking to people from the past as we make things with our hands. It doesn't matter what they are.
I love it. We did have one other comment that they just said, Chloe is very difficult for them. I understand that feeling of getting through that first hurdle of trying to get to understand where all the tools are and what all the tools can do. Because that program has a lot of bits and bobbles in it, and it's continually growing and continually learning is the one thing that I would say, because it's something like they change different things and they upgrade different aspects of that program all the time. And it's then you have to kind of relearn it or see how they're doing it now. And they're always trying to make it better. So if you want to learn Chloe, I always recommend being in that continually learning state of mind, because you can always learn something from somebody. So yeah. Do we have any other questions between our speakers?
Can I, since you're talking about claw, can I ask you a question about it? Like, how, because I've only like literally opened it and touched it a bit. I haven't like done anything really, but I really want to learn it. But how like accurate do you feel that the patterns are, like, when they're finished in claw? Because like the little I've dabbled with it, I felt like it was still quite a lot of things that you had to really look at to make it accurate.
Well, yeah, so it depends on how it was originally put in. So if you have a pattern that you've put in that is very accurate, depending on how you put in, I find that it can be actually a very accurate thing. If you are cutting shortcuts and you're trying to do like just the easy, quick, fast, hey, look, I have this really cool pattern I want to create, that you can digitally make it look really amazing, but it will not be an actual pattern. Like you couldn't
you need a pattern beforehand. So if you kind of drape a little bit like with a basic block, you'd still, it gets less.
Yeah, I normally start with a basic block that is a solid block. I've even drafted a basic block in Clo, just using all the same flat patterning rules and everything that it recommends that you do. You follow it step by step, and you can create the blocks in there so that you have them. And I mean, even if you were to do the pen on the avatar to create interesting shapes, you still can make those into real patterns, but you have to work with it. You have to use the fitting and you have to do the measurements and a lot of the same stuff you would have to do if you were working with the hand patterns. So a lot of people are like, oh, it's going to be so much faster. It's like, but you still have to do all the truing. You still have to do all the making sure the grain lines are correct for when you actually send it off to a company and that stuff. So it's one of those that I have used it in theater where the most recently, I had 3 raw net girls for Little Shop of Horrors, and they all had to be in the same dress. And we had basically a short girl, a medium girl, and a tall girl. So I drafted my medium girl, and then I auto fit it to the other girls. And I still had to do a lot of tweaking, a lot of testing, making sure that it was going to work. But then we printed out those patterns and they went on to the girls fine. We still had some alterations, mostly because not everything can be done in Clo. It is a balance of real and like I was definitely able to tweak some things, and I would show the designer one way and they're like, oh, that skirt's too full. Can we bring that in a little bit? You know, so it's like minor things, but you still have to have that original in-person fitting to make it a thing. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. And that's kind of what I thought it was for. And I think like actually with anything like textile product or garments, you're never going to get away from that fitting, because I think like to get the perfect fit, you need to look at it right in fabric, in the right fabric. So yeah. But it sounds very, very fun. I need to take the time to learn this.
Yeah, I would definitely recommend and there is a high learning curve of learning the tools and where they are. And that can be very frustrating because you're like, I learned this 10 minutes ago. I know how to do this and I can't remember because you've done 20 other steps since then. And it's just kind of practice and getting in there and working with those tools repeatedly. So yeah,
Sounds good.
That's what I would recommend.
Christina, can you use Clo for if you're designing patterns that you then want to sell as PDFs?
Yeah, that's actually how I use them a lot, because I'll actually draft it in Clo 3D. They actually have a really great grading system, much better than I have in Adobe Illustrator. It's still not perfect. You still have to kind of do some tweaks with it. But just within the past like 6 months, their grading for Clo 3D has actually gotten better. They were really working on that part of the system to make it better. And then you can export it to Adobe and finish it. So you can finish it there in Clo 3D, but there's certain aspects of how they present their patterns I don't like for my patterns, for when I sell my patterns. So I like to export them and put my own twist on specifically the name of the pattern and the grain line. I like to do mine in a very specific way, and I don't like how Clo does theirs. So when I'm exporting it, I just turn that part of it off, export it into Illustrator, and I finish up the pattern there so that I can then sell it.
So would you recommend getting both Adobe Illustrator and Clo 3D, or can you get away with just one or the other?
You could probably get away with just one or the other. And there's other programs that you can use instead of Adobe. Like there's Inkscape is a free version basically of Adobe. I've never fully used it. I want to kind of dive into it a little bit more so I can talk better about it. But I know lots of people who work in Inkscape instead of Adobe. And then also there's one called Affinity Designer, which is instead of being a monthly subscription, you buy it outright. So you can buy it as a package, I think for like $70, I want to say, and then you own it and you're not having to pay the monthly subscription. But that's one of those that's also very similar to Illustrator. But again, I haven't worked in it yet. So I just know about it.
And is Affinity available for the desktop as well? Because I know a lot of designers, especially textile designers, use it for creating textile patterns and prints, but mainly on the iPad. I've never heard anyone use it on a desktop. Do you know if it's available for both?
Affinity Designer?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought it was both.
I don't know.
Oh. No, so what you're thinking, I think there's it is a separate thing. So there's Affinity Designer for the computer. And then I think there's an Affinity Designer upgrade for a tablet.
Okay.
That it would be it's like a small edition add-on. I was just looking at this the other day for somebody. So don't quote me on this. This is all from memory.
Yeah.
But but yeah, so I think it is two different things. And I know other people get workarounds other ways, and so it just kind of depends on how you want to sell your patterns, I guess, would be my answer as well.
So what was the first one called? Inch something?
Inkscape.
Ink.
INKSSC. Ink. Oh my goodness, I gotta type that out.
Can I ask a question about the grading in Cloak? So they have their own set grade rules, but can you set your own as well? So because I do a lot of grading and I have a lot of size specifications, which I know have like perfect fits, which I would like to make into patterns. So could I then take my own grade rules and put them in?
Yep.
Oh, that's
Yep.
perfect.
And they have it. Yeah, that's a feature that I think it came out within this last half of a year. So it's still very new. That you can actually do that. Because they used to have what they would call auto grading, which wasn't actually auto grading. It was actually auto fitting. Because it wasn't taking the pattern piece and changing it, you know, for the grade
grading.
rules,
yeah.
It was taking the pattern pieces and seeing how it fit on that avatar and then moving it to another avatar and then refitting it on that avatar. So it was changing different things at different lengths.
That could
and the
cause a
auto-fitting
lot
was,
of problems in production, I would say, if they do that.
if people were just using that and not double checking, I think that could, like, you know, that's one of those that you have to make sure that what you think it's doing is what it's doing versus what you want it to do. But yes, now they do have like an entire section where you can edit the grades, and you can edit even so you can have them, if they're all similar, you can have them all go out at the very distinct. If you want them to go out and then change, you can have it change, or you can set each one individually.
Okay. Do you also know if like the one that they have, is that set on what body standard? Because I work with clients that are like, well, all over the world, and the US body is different from the European body and the Asian body. So are they basing it on the US body, or do you know?
For
The standards that they use.
I'm not 100% sure what they're basing it on personally. I have not done that type of research specifically. So I don't know the answer to that one. Sorry.
It's very interesting. I'm gonna have to check this out. I think it's very interesting.
As a pattern maker, I absolutely love it because I am able to manipulate really fast. Say, oh, I kind of like this, but I wonder if I did something else. I can literally copy and paste it, freeze the garment, and redo it with another one, fit that one on the avatar, and see how it looks, and be like, I do like this one better, or I liked the original one better, and then I can move it. Like, so there's just so much you can just play around with and work with to create some really fun shapes and fun garments. And so I'm always for people learning how to pattern
I'm gonna
draft.
take your courses now, I think. I'm gonna have to.
Yeah, we'll have to talk, because I'm interested in breaking into the fashion and being so we'll have to talk.
We can swap a little skills here.
I'm all for barters for sure. But so yeah. And I do know that I've actually had a number of people asking me about bags, Monica. They're interested in learning how to do bags. So I don't know if you're interested at all in doing digital drafting.
What to teach, you mean? How to do digital patterns, or?
I want to know, they want to learn how to draft bags and everything, but I didn't know if you were ever interested in.
I do actually use Inkscape to draft my patterns. I do. I am not tech person at all, and that was the only thing I found on YouTube when I kind of started to dabble with the bag making. So yeah, Inkscape, I think for bags, it's pretty awesome because you don't have to grade, like, you know, what Annette mentioned. You know, you just choose which size you want to do it, and yeah. So at the moment, I don't have a plan teaching digital patterns because I'm very bad at tech. But yeah, paper patterns, I do teach how to do it. So maybe in the future, you never know.
Do you have any tips for V of like using Inkscape? How's that? just in general? Like how
To be,
how is Inkscape? I don't use it.
it's pretty easy. Well, if you just open it for the first time, it's very overwhelming, but I'm guessing it's the same with any other program. I haven't personally worked with any other program apart from Inkscape, so I cannot really tell you the difference or similarities. But from what I just looked on YouTube, when I was kind of trying to teach myself how to use those programs, um, it's doable. I think I use maybe 10% of the entire options and things, tools that the program, offers, and that's more than enough to make bags digital, patterns. So if you want to like design logos and things like this and go crazy route of designing some, I don't know, SVG files or something like this, you can do that as well. But for just a simple back pattern, which is most of the time just rectangles, squares, and just basic shapes, easy. So I'm sure we can just learn it in a one day or two.
Sometime in the future. It sounds very overwhelming.
I know. I was like this as well. That's why I chose free, software, so I didn't have to commit to spending a lot of money and then suddenly I'll be like, nah, this is not for me. I'm too stupid for that. Free option, and I just stuck with it for the past 5 years. That's all I've been using. I haven't touched any other software for my patterns. So yeah.
Monica, can I ask you a question? How do you sell your patterns? Do you sell them as PDFs or?
Yes.
Cool.
I know other designers include SVG files as well. If someone wants to like print it in, I don't know, those mushy crickets and stuff,
Yeah.
or to I don't know. I'm very basic. Don't expect too much from me. Minimum PDF, that's all you need, printer, PDF, pattern, and a bunch of fabric.
That's great.
Awesome. Well, I do know that I've asked V and Annette this, but Monica, do you have a favorite project that you have worked on that you always kind of comes to your mind when you're working, or when you're asked what your favorite project is? It's a terrible question, but at the same time, it's one of those that it's a fun thing to always know what people love.
Well, from my personal bags and backpacks, I'm obsessed with backpacks, by the way. It's like all I wear most of the time is backpacks. So I love doing different designs, and I have one that's actually there. Yeah, I've got a bunch of them because I use them for everything. So it's called McFly backpack. But actually now I'm currently working on a penguin shaped kind of backpack, maybe, I don't know, crossbody bag. I'm not sure. It's inspired by the Loewe penguin bag. I saw it once online and I'm like, I want to try this. This is very unusual shape for me. So that's going to be kind of I don't know, a journey for me to do it. So I have like a prototype at the moment from Calico. So I'm halfway there. There's lots of tweaks and things I need to change, but once I do it, I think that will be my proudest achievement. But I'm not there yet. Well, let me see if I can show you the mock-up.
Gonna get a sneak peek.
So this is how it looks like at the moment.
Oh my goodness.
So I'm thinking to add like D-rings here and straps so you could wear it maybe like on the back or like a crossbody. So yeah, it's pretty cute, I think.
Yeah, I would 10 out of 10 wear that.
Yes.
So yeah, so that's my answer.
Awesome. I love that. So where do you get your inspiration?
From everywhere, to be honest. Pinterest is, I think, my favorite place to go when I'm stuck and I don't really know like what even where to begin and shapes. So I have so many different boards with like different shapes. and colors. I love color blocking, so I always look for clothes and bags with like different color blocking shapes, so I can, you know, incorporate all those scraps of fabric. And yeah, I would say high street. I see what people wear. Most of the time, I don't like bags that I see in shops, so I always try to, you know, make my own twist, and I always try to add something that I don't see anywhere else. And I do take a lot of inspiration from clothes. So like pocket types and things. I have a bunch of, you know, inspirational photos on Pinterest with different pockets in jackets, trousers, cargo, you know, and I always try to kind of sneak them in my patterns, just like a more bag making way of doing things, so it looks more like for bags. It's not like a weird pocket out of, you know, jacket, but yeah, like a belt pocket, you know, slip pocket, hidden pockets, things like this. I really like to incorporate. So I do take a lot of inspirations from clothes and from everything really around, you know. I love nature as well, and whenever I'm designing a bag, I always think about how I'm going to use it or how my customers will use it, and I tend to go first that route. You know, I think, okay, I need, I don't know, a small bag to keep my mobile and my passport because I'm going abroad, and that's all I need. You know, just hide under the jacket so the lady at the airport doesn't see it. So that's kind of my way of doing things. I think what I need, or if I have a request, what do they want, what do they need, and then kind of takes all the bits and pieces and try to make something special.
Awesome. I love it. And V, is the dress you were working on Monday, is that on your dress form right now?
Yes. I gave up with a concealed zip. After 3 attempts, it just wouldn't work. I think because the fabric's too lumpy with all the patchwork on it. So it's got a regular zip in it.
Okay.
But it needs just the working on the straps, then there'll be a facing and then a skirt thing going on. And the part down there, so
I'm so excited to see that.
so yeah, the fabric is is part of my session on Friday, how I made that.
Yeah, I love it. I love it so much. Also, just because I know you said you don't really plan how your fabrics to go, but even from a distance, like it's such a nice cohesive look that I think you just have the eye for it, because I like it.
The fact that I've just picked everything that's got, it has to have red in it, and then it will just somehow mash together and it'll be fine.
Yeah.
It's theory.
It's a good way to go. Give it a test. I am gonna have to try that and just sort out my scraps and see if I can get something so that it can come together as nicely as that.
Yeah, do.
We shall see. Awesome. Well, we haven't had many questions come in, but I've had a great time talking with you. Do you guys have any other questions or anything?
Michelle, can you tell me a little bit more about what you're doing? Like what type of classes? Because you told us about that skull, which was super cool. And I know exactly those eggs you're talking about because I live in Spain, so they have lots of like that type of thing. But what more do you do? Like what other classes can you do at your parties?
We do a lot of different types of things. So my video was on leather stamping, to get into the textile stuff. Over the pandemic, we taught quite a few embroidery classes just because they were really easy to do virtually, and you could I was sending out materials, and it's very inexpensive to ship things that are less. But in our classes, we teach a lot of things like terrariums and bath bombs, and I love doing mosaics. Mosaics are one of my favorite things to teach just because I like breaking glass. But basically we have an entire library of classes. We've taught around 500 public classes at this point. And so we've had a few duds and a lot of really big successes. And so the idea is to take your skill and create a project that's easy to do in about 20 minutes for you. And it winds up taking your students about an hour, so that they get the feeling of creating something wonderful, but they don't necessarily have to go into the weeds like many of us creators do when we're 15 hours into a project wondering why we started. Which has never happened to me this week. It happens all the time where it's just like, oh, did I really mean to paint something that big? Huh. But so we try to create kind of smaller, easy projects. So we do a lot of simple macrame projects. In our we've got a membership where we have a number of teachers, and we offer quite a bit of like those projects that are already photographed with all of the links and all of the everything that you would need to get started if you didn't want to develop things. But I like playing with supplies. I like playing any chance I get to buy more craft supplies. Don't care what the craft is.
It's
I
addictive,
will
I know.
absolutely do it.
I have a question, Michelle,
Yeah.
because I watched your video and I really enjoyed it, the leather stamp. And my question is, because you said you need to wet the leather before you stamp. And I was wondering, how do you know when the leather is too dry or too wet? That was my kind of like, I was thinking, how would I know? You know, knowing my luck, I probably like soak it completely and ruin it. But yeah, that was
You can't
I
ruin
wanted to ask. You can't. All right.
So when it comes to the a lot of times it will depend upon the leather that you're working with, and you don't want to get it very wet. So I like to just paint a layer of water on. If you soak it, it becomes soggy. Leather, the veg tan leather that we're using is spongy, if that makes sense. And so there are slightly different types of veg tan leather that will work. And there was one that I tried that was really hard. And it turns out that when I added water, it made it impossible to stamp. So I think a lot of it is trial and error of the specific stuff that you're working with. But a lot of the leather that's marketed as veg tan leather, you just want a little paint brush of stuff on. And then there is I have pieces of leather that are all about figuring out what works and how it works, because it's not an exact science at all. But
yeah, it looks so simple when you've done it. It looked so simple, and I was thinking, such a great idea. If I want to like personalize gift for my friends and family, I could make a little leather, I don't know, sachet, or I don't know, spectacles pouch or something, and just like not engrave, like, you know, stamp
right.
the initials or something. It would be or date or something. And yeah, I was like, okay, on the
2
to-do
seconds.
list.
I've been playing with, so just a little piece of leather like this, you could add to your bags and just add a little, you could either rivet it on or make a little keychain kind of thing.
Yeah.
And
Or even like a strap, you could just like stamp if you have like a crossbody strap. That would look really pretty, I think.
Yeah,
Giving me
I
too many
did.
ideas already.
Oh, it's leather stamping is so much fun, and it's really easy to succeed at. I did a hat strap. I had a cowboy hat that I've had for 10 years maybe, and it was very sad. And so I re-wet it and reshaped it, and then I added a leather strap with some lace behind it, and it looks like a new hat. It's funny how if you just add a little bit of beading or a little bit of leather pieces, it will just create such a difference in the garment. It's like, oh, I have something new now that I've already worn in. But yeah, I really love these little leather things because they're fairly inexpensive to buy and they're really cute and you can use them for all sorts of different labeling things.
And how
Gonna-
long
I'm
does
gonna definitely
like
get-
the leather stay? Or the stamping in the leather? Like it stays forever, or can it rub out, or
So I actually learned how to leather stamp when I was a child at Girl Scout camp when I was probably 8. And I have a badge that has my name on it that I have literally had for 30 years. As it gets older, it gets slightly darker, so the patina becomes more rich and more beautiful, but the stamp stays for forever. Once it's in there, it's when you're still working with it, if you stamp incorrectly, you can kind of erase it by wetting the leather again and then re-stamping it. But once it's done, it's solid. It'll stay for a lifetime.
oh, that's amazing. I got an old leather jacket in my mom's wardrobe that makes me think might have to get that.
I wouldn't try to stamp old leather just because
Okay.
it's a very specific kind of leather. It needs to be
Okay, and it's
it needs to be thicker. So this
okay,
is
okay. That's a could have been beautiful.
but you could absolutely add pieces
Yeah.
onto that have been stamped and actually here, one moment. I didn't do this particular piece, but you can create, I mean, this is all carved leather for, I think it was meant to be a billfold. I bought a whole leather stamping It's funny, as I started doing this for this project, I bought the supplies because we'd been planning on doing it anyway. And then I wound up at a garage sale and for $30, I wound up buying a ridiculous amount of leather stamping stuff. It was like the universe said, oh, you would like to do leather stamping? Here is everything you could ever do. But it came with some already stamped and carved stuff. So there's a lot that you can do with leather stamping and with teaching it, or just going down the rabbit hole of creating your own stuff, which I often do.
That's great.
Awesome. Yeah, I love that. I'm now so tempted to go buy a whole bunch of leather stamping stuff because I hadn't done anything like that even as a kid. I didn't get to do that. So I'm so tempted, but I'm just like I can't
One
add to my
project at a
craft
time.
collection. But maybe one day I'll find an excuse and my husband won't be angry at it, and then he'll use it too because he'll love it. So,
or I'll meet you on a crazy bike ride and I will bring the leather stamping stuff for you to play with.
there we go. Or we'll
And
bike
pass
through.
on because I'll have moved on to my next obsession.
There we go. We'll bike through New Mexico.
I will learn how to ride a bike. It's going to be great. It's going to be
There
so
you go.
cool.
I love it. I'm always pro learning how to ride bikes. Bikes can save the world in my opinion. So but that's also a different soapbox that we
Slightly
don't need
different
to go
subject.
onto. Do we have any last questions we want to ask or anything you guys want to say?
Thank you so much for hosting this. I've learned so much and I'm so excited to try a few new things.
Yeah, of course. I hope everybody's getting their creativity going. I know I always get so inspired from speaking to all of you and hearing your guys' stories and seeing your projects. It gets me really, I always have to rein myself in of like, you can't start new stuff right now. You can't start new stuff right now. But it really, it really helps get my creativity going and gets me really inspired as well. So I also want to thank all of you for taking your time today and joining us on the live and joining us in the Facebook group as well, so that we can have some fun. I definitely still have the spinning wheel of death that I had yesterday. So I'm gonna have, when I end the live, I'll just end the call as well. So I don't want to surprise you all with that. But I definitely want to thank you so much for being on this call, and I look forward to seeing what you all create.
Thank you.
Awesome.
you.
Yeah, thank
Yeah,
you
have
so
a
much.
wonderful day.
You too.
We'll see you all tomorrow.
Bye.